First up, in the following situation, we want to state whether two variables are related in any way and in a way that might be described as a function, and if so, which one is the independent and which one is the dependent variables. Okay, so independent variable and dependent variables. Reminder that independent variable is our x usually, and dependent variables are y if we're using x and y as our stuff. So let's look at a situation here. You have an expensive phone bill and you want to know how the cost of the bill depends. Okay, well, they kind of gave it to us here. They said depends. Okay, so that means we're going to definitely have an x and y relationship. There's a dependent. So it says the cost of the bill, that's one part, depends on the time you spent. Okay, so which one is causing which? So which one depends on which? Okay, so the dependent variable is the one that depends. So we say the cost depends on the time we spent. So in that way, it's actually telling us the dependent variable is what depends. Okay, what does it depend on? It depends on the independent variable. So this would be a function, and it would depend on the amount of time you spend on the phone. So time on the phone is our independent, and the cost is our dependent. Prorate the following expenses to find the corresponding monthly expense. Okay, this is to say prorate means that even if we don't have to pay a bill every month, it's good to set aside that money each month. Okay, and that's the way we prorate expenses. So for example, if we pay a semi-annual premium of $550 for automobile insurance, that means we only pay it every 6 months, but we might want to set aside how much it costs. So the first thing we have is $550 per 6 months. So I'm going to divide that by 6. The next thing we have is a monthly premium of $175 for health insurance. So that we don't need to divide at all. It's already in monthly. And the last thing we have is an annual premium of $500. So we don't have to pay $500 a month. We have to pay $500 every 12 months. And so that would be how we go ahead and get our answer. But make sure we round to the nearest cent because we're dealing with money. Use the 4 basic rules of algebra to solve the following equation. Don't get bogged down by that terminology. All that means is, hey, don't break the laws of algebra. Don't break the rules. And so what we're going to try to do is make sure basic rules of algebra say if we do something to one side of an equation, we do it to the other. So this is something that's squared. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work outward. So we're going to kind of peel away the outer layers as we work our way towards the inside. And what we're trying to get is the y by itself, or y equals. So we're going to start by square rooting both sides. But it's not quite that simple, because when you square root both sides, it does cancel out the exponent that was squared, but we actually end up with a plus or minus on the other side. Okay, so don't forget, whenever we square root, we always have to have a plus or minus. Now when we multiply by 2, we end up with y equals 10 or negative 10, either one of those. And if we were to plug them back in, you could see that if we plugged in 10 or negative 10, they would both give us the right answer. Calculate student loan of $15,000 at a fixed APR of 6% for 20 years. Okay, so we start with $15,000. That is our principal. We have an APR of 6%. Now, if we were to convert that to a decimal, I want you to understand that it's growing, or is it shrinking? And so we have an APR of 6%. We need to think about that in decimal terms. And the last thing we need is time. The time is 20 years. But I want you to notice what we're trying to solve first. The first thing we're trying to solve is monthly payment. Monthly payment. So a few things we need to do before we can solve our problem. The first one is to recognize that there is an Excel formula for this. You're allowed to use Excel in this course. So it could save us some time to go in Excel and type equals. Now our equals here, I believe, is PMT because it says calculate the monthly payment. Okay. Now to calculate the monthly payment, we need to do a few things. One, it's going to ask us for the principal value. The principal value is our 15,000. Don't put it in with a comma or it'll bug out at you. It'll also ask you for the percent, and it'll also ask you for the N per, which is the number of periods. Now the number of periods, that one is going to be not just 20 years, but 20 times 12, because we're not getting the annual payment, but the monthly payment. So it's actually going to be 240. The same logic, when they ask for us, they don't say, what's the APR? They say, what's the rate? And what they're talking about is the rate for each month. It's not 6% per month. It's 6% divided by 12. Okay, so when we go to type this in and we type in the rate, the in per, and the PV in our PMT function, we want to make sure that we're using the consistent amount in months. So we need to divide the rate to make it into monthly, and we also need to multiply by the number of months there are in a year to make the total number of payments. If we knew that the total amount we'd pay each month was a set amount, and let's just say, for hypothesis, it's $200, okay? If we wanted to find the total amount paid over the loan, if this is our monthly, then all we'd have to do is multiply it by however many payments we're going to make, which in this case is 240. And the last thing it would ask is the percentage paid towards the principal and the percentage paid toward interest. So what we're going to want to do there is we're going to want to make a fraction of paid towards the principal compared to the original. And so on the bottom of our denominator, we're going to put the 15,000, and then whatever our total here is we're going to put the total on the bottom, which is going to be whatever we got there for part B, and then the principal was 15,000. Well, how do you know the interest? Well, it's still going to be out of the total, but the interest we're going to have to take the total and subtract what we started with. Okay, I would use Excel. That's just me personally, but there's also formulas that you can use for this. Okay, so check your notes on which way you prefer to do this problem.